All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott, formerly of Rankin Technical College, and as part of my YouTube channel, JPS-Jeff Teaches Programming, which currently has in it about 70 plus videos inside of my one YouTube playlist, Jeff Teaches Programming-Python. I've been going over the Python programming language, and I've been trying to teach it in virtually every program up until about the last one has been a console program, but now I'm getting into GUI, or Graphical User Interface Programming, and I've decided to use TKinter, which is pronounced TKinter. Sometimes it's TKinter, sometimes it's TKinter. It's all sorts of different things. All right, but I'm just going to call it TKinter. All right, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to start writing several programs that are GUI programs, many of which I've already done console, but I'm going to redo them. All right, now it's GUIs. So here's my folder, and I'm going to call this TKinter. How about just TKinter programs? TK GUI programs. There we go. All right, and let's just immediately open this one up. And we'll open it up with Visual Studio Code. So it's an empty folder. And I'm going to have a bunch of subfolders in there. And the first one that I'm going to put in there, I'm going to create two versions of a simple payroll program, very similar to what I did earlier. So we're going to call this first one Payroll01. And when I get done with that, I'm going to do Payroll GUI02, which is going to just be an extension of Payroll GUI01. To keep this simple, for now at least, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add a new file, and I'm just going to add a new file, and I'm going to just call it main. So it'll be main.py. All right, and I'm going to try to keep this simple. So I'm going to put at the beginning, I'm going to put some comments in here. And it's not giving me my color because some reason it stuck an extra character on the end here. So let's rename. Let's get rid of this stuff on the end. There we go. All right, and we'll put in our extra dash there. Okay, so I'm going to put in at least some comments in here. So I'm going to create a simple Python GUI payroll program set up in the following way. All right, and we'll put in here several things that we're going to have. We're basically going to set up about 11 rows. In fact, I'm not even going to do that. Let's say 6 rows to begin with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to end up expanding on this program for version 2. So the first row is going to have, so this will be row 1 with a label for first name. Okay, and it'll also, in row 1, we'll also have an entry field for first name. And we'll worry about later, I'm going to actually add some exception handling because I don't want that to be blank. But for now, let's just leave it the way it is. All right, so row 2 is going to be almost identical. You may have already guessed, but with row 2, it's going to be a label for the last name and an entry field for the last name. Now remember, the difference between an entry field and a text field is that the entry field can only have one line of input in it. All right, row 3. This will have a label for the hours worked. And again, eventually we're going to set this up So just so you see this, cannot be blank. And that'll be here. This also cannot be blank. And this must be between 0 and 84. Now, I've said this before, and the reason I'm using those numbers is if somebody didn't work for a week, all right, they were on vacation, whatever it happened to be, they worked 0 hours. But I'm imagining a person wouldn't work more than 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. 12 times 7 is 84, right? In fact, we're going to move this down. All right, so again, this is going to have and again, this is the next row will be similar, but rather than hours worked, it's going to be hourly rate. And that has to be, again, this is arbitrary, so you could change it if you wanted to, but this is what I set it up as. All right. All right, row 5. Oh, that should say 4. Jeffrey. So this will be a label for the gross pay and an entry for gross pay, and I will account for overtime if they work more than 40 hours. Finally, we'll have a row 6 in here, and it's going to have 3 buttons in it. And this will calculate the gross pay. Okay. This will have clear on it. And this should set the focus to the first name. All right, and finally, all right, so what that will do is it will allow the user to end the program if he or she wishes to do so, or not end it. All right? So, there's 2 ways that this can actually be written when you think about it. And what I mean here is now I put in here what I want to have happen. So this is what I want the GUI to look like, and even how I want the GUI to act. So I can write my methods now. All right, I can write my methods, or I can make the GUI and then write the methods. So I could write the methods and make the GUI, or make the GUI and then write the methods. I want to make the GUI first. Now, a lot of routines don't do this, but this is how I'm going to do it. Now, I'm going to import TKinter, and I'm going to say as TK. All right, it's built in, just like in the past, when we've imported other things that we've used into our programs. All right. Okay. I'm also going to say from TKinter, import message box. We'll talk about that later. All right. So again, I could write my gross pay method right now. I could write my clear method right now, etc. But I'm going to set up my interface. So set up the program interface. All right. So the first thing I want to do here is our main window. Now, one thing or a couple things about this. First thing, okay, and that is I'm going to do this root equal tk.tk. So that's my main window, and you know at the very bottom of this I'm going to have to say root.main loop. Now, not rot, good gravy, Jeffrey. All right, so if I run this right now with nothing else in here but this, so if I save this and run it, I should have a window. Oh, I'm not going to, because I didn't give it a size, so I didn't give it the, oh, there it is. Yeah, I did. It gives the default size. So there it is. All right, but there's going to be a bunch of stuff in here. So I'm just going to hit enter a few times, okay? All right, so that was the first thing, just to show you that. Let's, so that's our main window. So here we will create the main window. And I'm putting a boatload of comments into the first one or two of these on purpose. Next, we will set the window title. And I'm going to say root.title. And I'm going to call this payroll calculator 01. All right. So the only thing that's different now is if I save this and I run it, now I'm going to have a title run. Okay, I have to stretch this out so you can see it. Payroll calculator 01. All right. So next, I'm going to set the window size. All right. And I'm going to make it a certain height by or certain width by a certain height. All right. So that's the root.geometry. And in this case, it's going to be 800 wide by 400 tall. All right, I want to see if that's about the size I'm looking for in here. So let's run it again. That looks pretty good. Now, when I redo it again, I'm going to make it 800 by 800 because I'm going to add a bunch of counters and stuff. All right. Now, the other thing I'm going to try to do in here is I'm going to see if I can kind of manually set in here some font settings. So in other words, set a variable for global font settings. You do not have to do this, but this is what I decided to do. So I'm going to say font settings equal, and then in parentheses, I want this to be Arial. I want it to be 16 point, and I want it to be bold. So every line that we put in here now should have this. All right. Now I can, even if I want to, I probably could even go back and put this up above, and then in the title here, set my font. Let's see if we can do that. I don't know if it'll work or not. I never tried that before. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say font equals font settings. All right, and I want to see now if this is going to be 16 and bold. So File, Save All, and let's run this. Didn't like something. Okay, the title does not expect that keyword. Okay, not a problem. That's why I said I hadn't tried it before. All right, so that's okay. We'll get rid of this. And let's bring, whoops, come on. There we go. Let's bring this back down again. All right, so we've got all of our windows now been set up. Okay, so now we want to bind things, so to speak, to that window. So we're going to have row 1 through row 6. That should make sense. So again, this will now be row 1. And what was row 1? Well, that was our first name, label, and entry field. All right, so let's do that first. So I'm going to say tk.label. It's going to be bound to the root, and we're going to have the text be equal to first name. Okay, so that's that. We'll want the font is going to be equal to our font settings. All right, and let's put a few more things in here. So width is going to be equal to 12 pixels dot grid. And we're going to put some other stuff in here. Now we're going to say the row is equal to 0, the column is equal to 0. Let's put some padding in the left and the right as well. I didn't even thought about this before, but it sure as heck does seem to make sense to do that. All right. All right. So we're going to say pad X equal 10, pad Y equal 10, and we're going to set sticky equal to E. I do not want to go over that right now. Okay, now what did I just do? Well, before I run this, okay, before we run this like this, the next thing that we want to do, that's set up the label. All right. So that said, this is what we want the label to be. So I'm going to say here LBL first name. All right, and that equals TK entry root again, font equals, that's TK.entry, that's why I'm getting that error. Okay, root, font equal font settings. Width equal 10. All right. And let's do our entry field. I'm just going to call it EF for entry field. So EF first name. And that's going to be dot grid. Again, row equals 0. Here now we're going to say column equal 1. Somehow I lost that. All right, so row equals 0, column equal 1. Again, pad X equal 10. Pad Y is also going to be equal to 10. Okay. And this is my label. This, Jeffrey, is my entry field. There we go. Now, what have I actually done thus far? Not a whole lot. But I want to show you what it looks like. So let's run it. There it is. There's first name. See that? Okay. Now, it almost looks like this could be a lot narrower too. So for my width, I can probably make this 400 by 400 for now. Okay. All right, so let's save that. Run it again just to see what it looks like. Yeah, I like the way that looks. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to do is row 2, and that's going to be the last name. So let's do this. So we're going to come in here. Whoops, and I should have copied that as well. And this will say row 2, last name. Label an entry field. So this is going to be, I don't need this, of course. Oh, I did that twice, but I did. All righty. Oh, good golly. There we go. All right, so this one's going to say last name. All right, and it will be in row 2. I'm sorry, row 1, column 0. Okay, and this will be EF last name. And again, the last name, when we put it on, it'll be in row 1, column 1. Now let's see what that did. Okay, so you can see how it's starting to take form, so to speak. Now we want hours worked and hourly rate next. So again, I'm just going to come down here and copy. So this will be row 3, and this is hours worked. All right, so this is going to say hours worked. And it'll be in row 2, and this will be EF hours worked. And so will this. And I'm just immediately going to come down here and make my next ones. So the next one will be row 4, and this will be hourly rate. And this is going to be in row 3. All right. And again, just so you can see what I'm doing here. All right, well, somehow I lost that, but I don't know how, but let's fix it right now. So this is row 3. was row 1. That should be row 1 here. That's row 2. That's what screwed that up. So this is row 1. This is row 2. Oh, something is host here. That's, I guess it's because I copied way too much of this stuff. All right, let's go down. It's screwed up. All right, so we've got row 1. There's the first name. That's working. Now row 2. I guess I removed that accidentally. So that'll be last name. All right, and that'll be row 1. And again, this will be last name, as will this. And that will say row 1, column 1. So that'll fix those two. Then we got our hours worked. So this is now row 2, as will this be. And then we've got hourly rate, and that is row 3, as will this be. Now let's see if I fixed it. Okay, perfect. That's what I want right now. All right. So I've got 2 more rows to go, one with the gross pay and then one with my buttons. Okay, then we can start writing the code that goes along with this. So this will be row 5, and this will be gross pay. Now, I really should redo these because this isn't technically row 1, it's row 0, row 1, row 2, row 3, and row 4. Okay, so again, this will be a 4, as will this, and this will become EF gross pay, as will the one below it. All right, finally, we'll put in our row 5, and this is going to be our row with the buttons. All right, now we're going to have 3 buttons in here, and I'm going to call them BTN calculate, BTN clear, and BTN exit. When I get done with these 3, we'll run the program. It will not be operational because I have not yet written the code that'll make the stuff work. But I should have my interface complete. And you'll notice that when we did this, I'm not doing anything with background color or foreground color, etc. You feel free to go in and do that stuff. We talked about that earlier. So this will be BTN calculate, and it'll be tk.button. The text will be equal to calculate. Let's set the font equal to our font settings. Again, we'll have the width equal to 10. Now we're going to add something else, something called command, which means when we run this, when we click that button, this is what we want to have happen. So command is going to be equal to, and we'll just call this calculate gross pay. Okay? Now we're getting an error because it hasn't been written yet. That's okay. All right. If I come down here below this and I type in def calculate gross pay and just put in pass, that should get rid of, oh, I thought it would. Says it's not defined. I didn't think this had to go above this. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see if I move this up above. I thought that, I mean, when I did it first, I wrote my code first, but I didn't see why there'd be any reason why I couldn't do it the other way. Let's see, though, if that removed the error that was down here. And it did. So it does want that first. That's okay. All right, that's still fine. All right. So we've got our BTN calculate. Okay. And we have to put it on the grid. Grid. The last one was in row 4. So the row is going to be equal to 5. The column is going to be equal to 0. And let's put some padding in here. So pad X equal 10. That's what we've been doing for the rest. So let's put a little more pad Y. So this is going to be between them. And we'll set that equal to 20. All right. So that's column 0. All right. Now I'm going to go and grab this and I'm going to copy it twice. All right, now don't worry about that because this is going to be clear. And this is going to be exit. All right, so this will be a button. The text will be clear. We'll use our font settings. We use all that. But we'll call this, I don't know, clear fields. Yeah, it's not a great name, but we'll use that one anyway. Now, we don't have a clear fields, so let's go back up here. And let's do another def of clear fields with a pass. All right, and let's just do our last one. It's going to be called exit program or not. And we'll put a pass in there for that one too. All right, so that should have gotten rid of the error that we had here. And there's clear fields. Okay. So this will be in row 5, but it'll be in column 1. And then finally, this exit. So this will be exit. And this will be in column 2. And this will be calling exit program or not. Now, should now be done, unless I screwed up in here someplace. I should be done with my interface. So let's see. Oh, I think I got to put that sticky in for all of those, and I didn't do so. Let's see. Oh, I'm looking at mine, and I think it looks set up the way that I did it. So let's save this, and let's take a look at the error we got. See, it's in TKinter. It's not in my stuff, so here it is. says it's in line 76. Oh, what is this? That's pad Y. It's Y because it didn't understand what the heck I was talking about because I typed it in incorrectly. All right. Let's clear this. And let's save it and try to run it again. There we go. All right, look, if you look at that, this has got to be made a little wider, I guess. It's going to end up looking like that. All right, so let's change my width on here. I don't know exactly how much. Let's just try changing it arbitrarily here. We'll come in and we'll try to change it from 400 wide to, let's make it 475. Oops. 475 by 400. See if that's wide enough. It's close, so let's make it 500. Now again, I've already mentioned this, okay? This is not a great interface, but it's not terrible either, all right? But as of right now, it doesn't do anything, as you can see, all right? And I am going to change this to 525. And run it one last time. All right, so there it is. Now I can keep twerking this, so this equals this, you know, make it like about 515. And it's gonna, you know, eventually it'll look pretty much symmetrical. It'll look the same, in other words. I don't know why it didn't show anything, but save, run. Something got goofed up in here. 15 by 400. Loop. Just keep it at 20. I don't know why that would stop running, but it did. Oh, good golly. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's here. It was there. There it is. Okay. So you can see this isn't perfect, but it doesn't look terrible either. I probably could have moved these over and played around with spacing and the like. To my knowledge, or in my opinion, it's as good as it has to be. How's that? There is one thing I'm going to do. Again, don't have to do this, but I'm going to, and that is I'm going to make this about 350. And let's bring this back to 15 here. I'm going to get rid of this. That's one thing. When you're doing this, if you've run the program like this, don't keep running it because it's very easy to screw the. See this? This is run all the other times I hit it to run the program. All right. So file, save all. Let's try to run it again now. And that's good. That's my interface. There we go. Okay. Now, if I wanted to, again, we could go back here and we could change the background color for our window. Okay. We could change the text color. I'm not going to do any of that. Why? Because what we've got is just fine. I'm more concerned with you understanding how to use this right now than I am with you understanding. I mean, I want you to understand how to use it. I don't, you can go and play with colors and the like all you want to. All right. So let's talk about, well, what do we have to do next? So let's see. Well, one thing we're going to have to do is clear our fields. All right. So let's do that one first because it's small. And so is exit. In fact, exit's the smallest. So let's do these in reverse. Remember up at the top here, we added, oh, where are you? Come on. Well, somewhere near the top here. There, we did our imports. In fact, these should be up higher. Should be up over here. There. All right. So let's write these. And again, we'll write them in reverse order. So I'm going to say if message box dot ask yes no exit are you sure you want to exit the program? All right. So that's an if. Since it's an if, we need, of course, our colon on the end. If we do say that, we'll say self.root.destroy, which means get rid of the window. And if it's not, we don't want to do anything. We have to pass self in here. That's why we're getting an error. Let's see if that works. So file, save all. Now, again, our exit button only should now be operational. All right. It says I'm missing something here. So let's see what the heck I'm missing. If message box. Okay, I've got, oh, it's because when I ran it before, I had the, I didn't have the self in there. I think that's why it got screwed up. So let's try this again. Still doesn't like something. Okay. Def exit program or not. Self if message box dot ask yes no exit. Are you sure you want to exit the program? Self dot root dot destroy. That's all correct. I'm going to try to move this down below because this is where I've always had it. But I'm going to put it here. All right. Before my let's do it like this. I'm going to change this around. I'm going to keep virtually everything I have here, but I want you to see something here. Okay? So let's see. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that later. So I've got these. I've got my exit. Not sure still why this isn't working. All right. what we're going to do is I am going to take this and move this back up to the top of my program. All right, by the other stuff that we had up there. All right, we'll look and see if we can fix that in just a minute. So our clear fields. All right, for our clear fields, we basically want to clear out every single field that's in here. So we've got a first name field, a last name field, an hours worked field, and an hourly rate field. All right. Plus, we've got our gross pay. Okay, so let's come in here and we call the first one EF first name. So we're going to say dot delete. I'm going to go over all this stuff in just a moment. TK.end. So we've got the first name, the last name, the hours worked, the hourly rate, and we're going to want to do the gross pay. Now, gross is going to be a little bit different, and I don't think I put this in here on the gross pay, but the gross pay is going to be set up a little bit differently. What do I mean? Well, when you think about it, it's kind of like the answer, gross pay is kind of like the answer that you have when you put something in for a calculator. In other words, I'm going to say here state equal read only. So that's a read-only field. And that should make sense to everybody. All right. So, yeah, we want to do a delete here. But before we do this delete, we're going to come in and we're going to say EF gross pay dot config state equal normal. All right, so let's see. The other thing that we want to do is we want to make sure we set it back after we do that to read only. And finally, what we want to do is, if you may or may not remember this, but we said we wanted to set the focus. Okay, so let's put self in here. Don't know if this is going to work. I'm combining some stuff I did from a couple programs, so first doesn't like that. I'll put this just EF first name dot focus set. All right, and we'll have the self in here. All right, now let's go over this. Why? Because it may or may not make a boatload of sense to you. And if it doesn't, that's okay. Because like I said, we're going to go over it right now. All right. Now, when you're working with TKinter like this, all right, when you put in this delete and then you put 0 like this, TK end, what that's supposed to do is it's supposed to clear the content that's currently displayed in that entry field. So I want to clear what's displayed in the first name entry field, what's in the last name entry field, what's in the hours worked entry field, what's in the hourly rate entry field, and what's in the gross pay entry field. All right. Now that 0 that's in there represents the starting position. Okay. And it's basically position 0. And right there tells TKinter to delete all the text from the starting position until the end. All right, later we'll use insert in there too, but don't worry about that right now. I'm still not sure why this isn't working, but it's not. So let's see if the other part works. So let's do a save all here. Let's run this. Again, we don't have our calculate working yet, so I can put anything I want in here. It is clearing, and it is setting our focus back to here. It still isn't working, but that's good. I mean, I've got the clear working. I have to see if I can figure out why this exit is not working. All right. All right. Okay, so let's do our calculate gross pay, and then we're going to come back and look at that one. See where I am for time here. I'm at 51 minutes, so I'm going to have to hurry the heck up here. All right, so in this calculate gross pay, we're going to put in here a try, and we're also going to have an except for a value error. All right, and don't worry, we're going to fix all these. Those errors are going to go away literally in a matter of seconds. So we're going to say out here, hours worked is going to be equal to float EF hours worked dot get. So we're telling it to get that value, and hourly rate is going to be equal to float EF hourly rate dot get. All right, so this will get the value from the hours worked entry field. All right, then this will get the value from the hourly rate entry field. Okay, hopefully those both make sense. Now let's put in a little bit of error handling. But before we do that, let's go back up to here and let's set some constants. And we're going to say min hours equals 0. Max hours equal 84. Min H rate, hourly rate, equals 0.00. Max H rate equals 99.99. And we'll just, let's be whatever here. And I'm going to put here 0.00 and 0.00 here too. Okay, why did I do that? Well, now in here, when I do my error handling, I can say if hours worked is less than min hours or hours worked is greater than max hours. Well, I know in those cases I've got an error, right? So I'm going to raise a value error, and I'm going to say hours worked must be between fact, when we do this, let's put an F string in here. It must be between min hours and max hours. Okay? All right. Then let's put in another one of these. This will be for checking. So this will be our hours worked error handling. And then below that, we'll do our hourly rate error handling. So if our hourly rate, and this is min h rate, hourly rate, max h rate. So hourly rate must be between min h rate and max h rate. So in other words, I'm checking both of these fields to make sure they're within range. If I get down to here, I can say both hours worked and hourly rate were valid. All right. So calculate the gross pay, including overtime for hours worked greater than 40. All right. So if hours worked greater than, and let's put in one more. We'll put in a couple more of these in here. So I'm going to put in here max non-OT. So that's the most hours you can work without getting overtime. Then it'll be 40.00. And we'll call this over rate. So that's the overtime rate. And that'll be equal to 1.50. All right. So here, if it's greater than max non-OT, that means person has OT coming. Okay? So they've got overtime available to them. So in that case, the OT hours, overtime hours, are going to be equal to the hours worked minus max non-OT. All right? And their gross pay is going to be equal to 40, which is max non-OT, times the hourly rate plus their overtime hours times their hourly rate times their OT rate. Okay? They got overtime coming. Now, and they call that OT rate over rate. There we go. All right. So otherwise, no OT worked. Gross is hours worked times hourly rate. Okay, so else gross pay equals hours worked times hourly rate. Pretty simple. All right, now a couple more things we have to do here. First of all, let's get rid of, we've got, where the heck? Oh, where did I put my except? Did I remove it? Let's look. I did. All right, so we'll put that back in here. So we put this in here as a try. So down at the bottom of our try, right down here, we're going to say except, and this is where we'll put in our value error as E, and we'll just say message box dot show error. We'll just say like invalid input, something like that, and we'll put in the rest of whatever was in there. Now, the other thing we have to do here, in here, so inside of here, all right, we have to, for lack of better words, put the gross pay into the gross pay entry field. All right, so EF gross pay dot config state equal normal. So in other words, it's not read-only when we say normal. Why? Because we have to put a value in there. Then we'll have to turn it back into read-only again in a second. We want to remove anything that might be in there. So EF gross pay dot delete 0 to TK dot end. Then we want to insert it. So EF gross pay dot insert, starting at position 0, and we'll put in here F. Trying to think of the best way to do this. How about this? Yeah, gross pay .2F. Yeah, that'll work. And let's put in a $sign too. We don't have to do that, but $sign. Finally, we've got to go and turn that back around, so it's not normal anymore because it's supposed to be a read-only field. So the state is going to have to be reset to read-only. Now I'm still having problems with my exit program or not, but before we do that, let's see if we get it to run. So save all, or if we have errors. All right, so there it is. So I'll put in here me, Jeff Scott. I'll say I work 40 hours and I make $25 an hour. I should get 1,000 in there, and I do. So that's working. Now, does clear work? It does. How about overtime? Let's say that Sandy worked 50 hours and $20 an hour. That should mean that she gets 1,100 right here. Oh, that's not right. So the calculation is wrong there. That's all right. We'll fix that in a minute. Yeah, because that's 50 times 40. So let's see, look at this calculation. Overtime hours is hours worked minus max non-OT. That is a biggie there. So we'll do it again. Again. They should be 1,100. And it is. Clear. Doggone it. Still saying that I'm missing something in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go check to see what I missed. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to go over every line of this program. Then we're going to work on it and add counters. And what I mean is, once we do this, we'll calculate and keep track of accumulators, the total number of employees, the employee who got paid the most, or the amount that was the most, the amount that was the least, the average amount, and then a total payroll as well. So we'll have about 5 accumulators that we'll add in just a bit. I'll be back with that shortly. See you then.